Okay, good morning. What we don't know about life, and we never even think about. We just go about our everyday lives thinking about absolutely nothing. I don't believe we think about anything. I know that, when I was younger, it was all about wanting to meet the right person and getting with the right person. And then kind of like, when you start having children, just kind of like changes all your life to responsibility of ensuring that that child has access and that child can access, because really responsibility is a lot. It's a lot when it comes down to responsibility to ensuring another child or someone that you made has access to life skills. Basically, that's what we want to see, life skills. And so, anyways, education as we know it is for life skills. And quite frankly, life skills come from your family, come from public education, come from community service, comes from survival skills, comes from engaging in the process. That's where it comes from. And so we're going to review Senate Bill 89, the Education Committee, in this chapter, an act relating to the education, revising provisions governing the annual reports of accountability for public schools. And this Senate Bill is 89, but it is Nevada's Senate Bill 89. So when you go and look it up, you can find it just like me. You go to Nevada Ledge and you type in Senate Bill 89 and you look for it. Or you could probably just look for Senate Bill 89 on Google, because Google has everything. Anything you ever want to know, just ask Google. That's what I'll say. So anyway, my eyes itching this morning. But anyways, let's continue, shall we? And revising provisions governing the annual reports of accountability for public schools, revising the requirements for a plan to improve the achievement of pupils. So if you want to improve, you have to have somewhere, you have to have determined where you are, basically. And I don't see any formidable data that's been gathered or that people are talking about, but I do see an uprising in the Black community here in Clark County. And when I went to look for the Black Leadership Summit that I'm going to be attending on Saturday, March the 14th, from 9 to 3, and it's going to be at Nevada Partners. That is 690 West Lake Mead Boulevard. 690 West Lake Mead Boulevard in Las Vegas, Nevada, or Clark County. I don't know which way it is. But anyways, the conversation is supposed to be about what we see, I guess, as a vision for leadership. My vision is that we understand that it is our responsibility to address the disparities in public accommodations and public services for the community who look like us. And it doesn't have to be coming from any one organization. Individually, we have a personal responsibility to get in the lane and kind of like hold the lane accountable, basically. And because there is no staying in your lane when there's nobody in the lane for you. And I'm trying to create a lane for African American people. The agenda should be all services that happen in America that relate to freedom, liberty, and and justice for all, basically, not just us. That not just us, because it seems like when it's always just us who are identified as being overly dysfunctional. Let's think about it. Excuse me. Let's think about this disciplinary thing and then roll it over to slavery and understand all of the negative things that happened to Black people during the slave days, and know that we are only 150 years out of, away from the Emancipation Proclamation, and less than that, 55 years or so from Brown versus the Board of Education. So coming into the system of uh, public services, public amenities, public, and knowing that we too are being counted when it comes back to related services to come for the federal government to help provide support for families in any one particular state. Because, we have some states where little tiny people are, maybe about 10 of them, living in one community, and they have a whole senator representing them and their interests because they're in a rural community. And then we have huge slots of land that are in cities who are considered cities and not rural, in rural areas. But the deal is that we have to understand just how the process goes. So the process establishes the participation level. And as Blacks, because we came into the game late, and I do mean late, the game was already going on. We have managed to position ourselves in the fabric of America. Yet the fabric says that if you try to lobby or affect change for people who look like you, you can be punished and probably lose your little, your little whatever bargaining chip that you've been sitting on forever. Because so we have the haves and the have-nots. And the haves basically have been restricted to stay amongst themselves. And the have-nots ain't got nothing. And I do mean nothing. Except for people are harvesting them. And it is all about the harvest. Because there is no maintenance of effort. We're just not holding ourselves accountable for nothing. And freedom has never been free. And as long as freedom is not free, is requirement that you too step up. And whatever your area of expertise is, join in the quilting of America. Covering. Because I believe that we have managed to participate at every level, yet we do not know what we don't know. I simply have never been in economics, so I don't know about that. And there's certain things that I don't know anything about, but then there are certain things that I know a great deal about. So I do know a great deal about special education. I know a great deal about behavior and transition services. I know a great deal about public education. And I didn't know about MLA writing. I had no idea about, my last child, who was said to be severely mentally retarded and communication handicap, winded up being autistic and communication handicap, graduated with a 101 aid, a laptop, and above proficient. But it doesn't mean that he has the social and emotional development to be maintained on the street independently by himself. And because he has epilepsy and somewhere that I'm just never going to go, I have to plan services for him. And I'm so blessed to have had time to be put in a position to nurture my children through the process of public services. Because when you raise a child in public schools as a Black person, you must be willing to participate, to return to the educational process, to ensure that access happens for your child. And if you ain't, understand why we have accepted the letter grade of F for so many children at different grade levels. What is that? Somebody help me with understanding just what that is, because why is failure being allowed to be an option? If you were criminally negligent and stealing money, and you knew you were stealing it because you had no accountability to managing the money, and you say, well, there's no rules written around managing those monies, those dollars. But you can't say that around education. But people have to know that they have a responsibility to hold you accountable, and that there are no freebies in America. And there are really not. And, because of the rewriting of the ESSA Act, the Every Child Succeed Act, understand that when they rewrote it, they wrote away all of the hold harmless clauses that were written in the law to allow people to catch up, basically, to invest in belief system that every child is valuable. They had time to do that. It's just unfortunate that if you don't know you have a right to having it, you ain't getting nothing. And that's just real. All right, let's dig into this, right? Because see, Nevada only has a very short window for legislation, and this is what came out of it. And let's keep it moving here. All right, requiring the State Board of Education to develop a non-binding recommendations for pupil specialized instructional support and ratio in public schools, requiring schools safety specialists to be designated for each public schools. Now, you see that safety specialist? That's law enforcement, just in case you didn't know. Revising provisions related to providing a safe and respectful learning environment. Revising and provisions related to plans used by schools in responding to a crisis, an emergency, or suicide. Revising provisions related to schools' statewide framework and providing integrated student supports for students enrolled in public schools and families such as pupils. Revising provisions related to school police officers. I knew it was. Revising the provision related to pupil discipline. Oh, check that out. Pupil discipline police officers. Is there a correlation in there? I know that there was a correlation on the plantation to, the management supposedly, and the people who were slaves, basically. Well, it seems like it's kind of like the same correlation here. Instead of teaching people how to transition, we're just disciplining them, and they're not fitting in, so to speak. So anyways, let's just see how Nevada sees it. Existing laws require board of trustees, districts, and sponsors of charter schools in the State Board of Education to prepare annual reports of enrolled public schools in this NRS, whatever, and this section of this whatever bill, requiring the information, and it must be included in the annual reports of accountability in a manner that allows disaggregation of the information in certain categories of pupils. Now, see, that's a huge to hear. You got to know that that's something that, we need to pay attention to. And so, existing law requires a pupil of each school. Now, see, each school. That means each local educational agency, in consultation with employees of schools, and to prepare a plan to improve the achievement of pupils enrolled in the school, prescribes these requirements of a plan. Whatever. It's not written so great, but that's okay, because it's telling you that they have to address the needs of the children. And so anyways, this just goes into what they're supposed to do. Existing law provides this establishment of the Safe to Tell program. And see, this is all law enforcement. I really just don't. But anyways, let's just keep it going, since this is the federal website. Review and update on an annual basis the plan used by all schools in the district and every charter school. So see, where's the plan? Where's the disaggregated data? How do we put our children in places where we don't know what's happening with them? At least we have not seen the data, and we cannot make a determination except for actually participating in a toxic environment where our children are not being treated equally, or they're in the most restrictive environment because they're not engaged in the process, and data is just being collected negatively about them. Let's just keep it going. So anyways, this bill requires a person in charge of the school building to ensure that drills are provided. Now see, this is all public safety. Really, this is all about how the police officers are engaged in the public school. All right. And let's see. The people of the state of Nevada represented in state assembly do enact the following. So here we go to the meat and potatoes of this real, shit. Excuse my French. The annual report of accountability is prepared pursuant to this section of Nevada Ledge and must include the following information: attendance, truancy, transiency of pupils, including without limitations to. Now see, that's a whole mouthful of because you know that children in poverty have all of these issues. And so it's just saying collecting this data But it doesn't tell you that they're responsible to transition any of this. It just says they have to track it. That's it. Let's just scroll down here. Oh, let's see. Habitual truants, they're getting all this information. They do have it, but they don't. All right, so the information included in this section, such as people who are, look at all these people. These are the people who we're talking about. Economically disadvantaged, major racial sub or ethnic subgroup, children with disabilities. And what are they supposed to be doing? All this great stuff. On or before September 30th of each year, the Board of Trustees of each school district shall submit and invite to each advisory board and review the attendance and review all of the things that, are supposed to happen to measure achievement, student achievement, so you can hold yourself accountable. It's so frustrating, but this really just talks about the expulsion, suspension, and talks about what they can collect information on bullying. Oh, look, the number of incidents or suspension or expulsion or both for bullying and cyberbullying, and actions taken to reduce those number of incidents. And, I don't really, I don't. I'm really trying to understand this is just violation of civil code or, violations. But these are the targeted subgroups. And so if bullying is an issue, and the principal of each school should, including without limitation, each charter school consult with employees in school to prepare this plan. Well, where is the plan for bullying? Where is it? And how did they reach the Black community? Is what I really want to know. And so in complying to the same equal access to African Americans, how is it that African American data was just even left out of that past thing, that the state plan, the resubmission of the state plan for public services, although we are in a subgroup and we are there, but we don't have any voice in, and you can see in the document their own data that they didn't outreach in the Black community, or if they did, they limited it to the people who they employ, who are limited to nothing beyond their job scope. And I'll just put it like that. So, every citizen has a right to share their concerns about what's happening. If you don't have the experience or expertise, then you still have a right to say what's working for you and what's not. And I can say, I'm looking at the educational system here, and it's not working for a whole lot of people, but guess what? It is strong. It has a lot of unionized issues going on because they have a lot of contracts and contractors, and they have a lot of new buildings and new new partnerships and new nonprofits and new commissions and commissioners, but they still have a lot of failure, is what they have for the Black community. And so until the Black community has a right to oversee or share concerns in regards to what's happening to the student population, and that there is someone to hold accountable for the failed services, then we're being discriminated against by the disparate act of simply people having the ability to ignore your concerns simply because historically they didn't matter. And that is an issue to me. So anyways, the governor shall appoint this safety committee, and then this is who he put on it. And I guess it's already been established. And then this is all the changes that happened during this last time they revised the 2019, the 80th session. And then as used in section, specialized instructional support personnel includes persons employed by each school district, necessary services, assess and diagnose and counseling, educational service, therapeutic. And see, this has to do with special ed, or special education services, counselor, psychologist, social worker, nurse, speech and language pathologist. This has to do with real services. And they're supposed to be looking for those kind of people who are qualified to provide those level of services and assessments. But they don't even have any data that talks about the number of third graders who are at grade level, or who are African American, or who are below grade level, or who are failing or who are just below basic. Any child at any grade level who is below basic cannot do the work, simply, and are not at grade level, and they're not working towards proficiency simply because there's no plan to do that. You have to have something to measure, and you have to have something to hold yourself accountable to, instead of just collecting data about what people can't do because you never taught them. And that's just simple to me. But anyways, let's just keep going here. And it just talks about what they're supposed to do. And I don't even know. Can we just look and see how many times African Americans are mentioned in this plan? Let's look at that. Hey. Look at that. None. I'm going to have to pause. Pause. Can you hear me? Let's get back up here. Okay. Back to resume the share. Had to step away for a second. But anyways, let's just get through this. But you see, as this is what the legislative this was supposed to be addressing, special instructions, but you don't see anything that says that it had to. I searched up here, African Americans, and there's no results. So your needs are not being met here. Just because they change the law, they don't target any support for you. And that's what we need to understand. Is the targeted support, are you included in the targeted support of the money that's being driven in your community to ensure that your children also have access? And I can tell you that I'm not finding that here in Nevada. So I'm gonna stop this. Hope you go and read Senate Bill 89 on your own and type on the side there, African American students. Let's just see students. Let's see how many times they list students in here. S T U D E N T S. What's you have to go back? No S. And these students are listed there. Establishing effective integrated support students, and see, students are all there. Students, but they don't have one way to disaggregate students. It's just listed students. See? Student support, people enrolled in public schools. This would be targeted support. This would be disaggregated data. Every time they mention the student support, it's supposed to be disaggregated by race and ethnicity, or whoever, however you're measuring your ability to provide services to students. Every ethnic group has a right to understand how those services are affected in their community or for their children. So when parents can make a wise decision about placement in their children in any school, they have a right to know how that staff is providing services to those children. And you don't just have to take whatever is there. No, you have to hold accountable what's there to ensure that you have access to it. And so I was so dumbfounded last night when I was at this meeting, this planning meeting for the Black Summit, this Black Leadership Summit, where people question what is the Black agenda. That was confusing to me. As a person who was born here, my agenda is to be successful here. And anybody who I birthed, I expect them to have the same ability as any other person who was born in America. No, let's not leave ourselves out of this game. Let's understand that although they don't like to put the disaggregated data together here, which would make them responsible for who was accessing services and who was not accessing services, that if you want to have the services, you have to demand that they demonstrate a measure of maintenance to you. And you have a right to have that certain expectation, and failure should never be the option. And when we decide that we're going to stop allowing failure to be the option of the public service, of the money that's provided in our community, we're going to stop accepting failed services as a people across this nation. Then we change things, because we have to stand up, meaning we have to vote for people who we can demand outcomes of oversight. And if they cannot, we have to move them out of the way and put someone else in. But we have to show up. We have to know that this is not happening. So know that this is not happening, that you have been technically excluded by the desire to eliminate this disaggregated data. Is disaggregated data based on the ethnicity of the people who they're generating the funds. Because see, a lot of children in poverty, let's just type up that word poverty. I think, let's look, let's type up the word poverty so that we can see if it's even in here. It has to do with money. Poverty. No poverty. Oh, goodness. What would be a good word? Well, we looked at supports. And I think that that's the most important word, supports. And disaggregation. I think we can look at that word, if I can spell it. D-I-S-A-G. There it is right there. 2 G's, E-R-A, or whatever. Here it is right here. The information included pursuant to this section allows such information to be disaggregated by what? Pupils economically disadvantaged, racial groups, maybe, is it ethnic groups or racial? Is that how they do it? Let's see that one. R-A-C-I-A-L, racial groups. So racial's in here twice. That one time, and then that one time too. When they're talking about consequences of people, see, there you go, racial and ethnic. But I don't see no disaggregated data. Okay. See any disaggregation there? Oh, there it is. No, it's not there. Don't let me fool myself. Anyways, time to stop this string. I hope you subscribe to my channel, and I hope you share and like it. I want to bring more information, as we have to awaken ourselves and we have to be responsible for ourselves. So if you have any questions, please inbox me and I will try and respond. So until the next time, let's sign off for now and end the share.